Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. In today's thought-provoking video, we're diving deep into a truth most people never talk about: the dark side of intelligence. Why do smart people often feel so alone and unhappy? While intelligence is often celebrated as the greatest human gift, it also comes with a heavy price: isolation, overthinking, and a haunting sense of existential emptiness. From historical geniuses like Nikola Tesla and Dickinson to the silent struggles of today's deep thinkers, we'll uncover how the very thing that sets them apart also sets them adrift from the world around them. Are intelligent people cursed with seeing life too clearly? Why do their minds often lead them to anxiety, loneliness, and even depression? And most importantly, is there a way out of this inner war between awareness and suffering? Stay tuned as we explore these profound questions and uncover the painful paradox of being too intelligent in a world that sleeps. If this topic resonates with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Let's get started. There is a little-known truth that few dare to acknowledge. Intelligence, although praised as the most valuable gift a person can possess, often comes with a very high price: loneliness, inner turmoil, and a lingering sense of alienation that stretches to the very depths of existence. Looking back in history, how many geniuses have truly led a fulfilling life? Nikola Tesla died in poverty. Van Gogh took his own life in despair. Nietzsche spent his last years in madness. Is there perhaps a connection between intelligence and inner unhappiness? A sharp mind is not only a tool for achieving success, but can also become a burden that crushes its possessor. Intelligence not only brings understanding, but also amplifies these pains. The intelligent person, with their keen observational skills and out-of-the-box thinking, soon recognizes the cruel jokes of life that most others live in blissful ignorance. They cannot pretend not to see the absurdities, the deceit, the performances that society erects to fill the void. The more they know, the harder it becomes for them to engage in trivial conversations, superficial relationships, and meaningless pleasures that the world deems normal. This clarity pushes them to the fringes, isolating them in a crowded world where they no longer feel a sense of belonging. How can you care about trivial matters when your mind is always drawn to bigger questions? This difference makes intelligent people prone to isolation, not because they want to, but because they are unable to do otherwise. When they try to blend in, they must pretend to care about things they do not truly care for. They must hide their true thoughts, playing the role of someone else just to avoid being seen as too different. However, this pretense only adds to their exhaustion and distances them from their true selves. They cannot fully be themselves when they are with others, nor can they tolerate the inauthenticity of their own behavior. Dickinson, one of the most famous poets in the world, spent nearly her entire life in her room, avoiding all contact with humanity. Isaac Newton, one of the greatest minds in the history of science, had no close relationships with anyone and died in isolation. They cannot find anyone who resonates with them, and thus they accept living alone. Even when intelligent people find others as intelligent as themselves, it does not guarantee that they will feel less lonely, because intelligence is not just a matter of understanding, but also a matter of emotions. Two people can both have high IQs, but if they do not share the same outlook on life, they will still feel alienated from each other. Intelligence is not something easily shared, as it is not just about thoughts, but also about deep feelings regarding the world. And those feelings are unique. So is there a way for intelligent people to escape their own loneliness? Do not try to fit in by forcing yourself to be like others. One does not necessarily need to have many friends to escape loneliness. The only way to overcome loneliness is to learn to accept it, to make it a part of life rather than fighting against it. A person of ordinary intellect can live a simple life, enjoying small pleasures and feeling happy with that, but a person with high intellect cannot. They feel that everything is too trivial, too shallow, too predictable. They always yearn for something deeper, something that can give them a sense of completeness. Ironically, their own intelligence prevents them from achieving it because they understand that nothing in this world is enough. The paradox here is that the same intelligence that reveals the meaninglessness of everything does not provide them an escape. They cannot stop thinking, cannot stop questioning, cannot return to how things used to be, and that is the tragedy. Intelligence is like a powerful spotlight shining into the darkness, but that light, instead of bringing peace, causes them to see more clearly the decay in the human soul, the imperfections of society, the insignificance of human life amidst the endless universe. They see the suffering behind the smiles, the fears beneath the mask of success, and the emptiness hiding behind the goals that the masses pursue. Sometimes they wish they could be a little naiver, a bit more trusting, carefree like the crowd out there. But intelligence is a double-edged sword. Once it has cut through the veil of illusion, they cannot go back. And so, they carry within them a sense of existential estrangement, a restless questioning about the meaning of life, about death, about existence. They grapple with the unanswerable questions. Who am I? Why do I exist? What am I living for? Do all these efforts mean anything when death ultimately puts an end to everything? In the quiet of the late night, when the world has fallen asleep, the thoughtful often lie awake, not due to work or responsibility, but because those very questions gnaw at them from within. No one hears their sighs. No one understands the depth in their gaze. Because language is insufficient to express the loneliness of one who is too aware in a world that is asleep. Wisdom and loneliness, a gift or a curse. With wisdom, a world full of contradictions, power games, and false values becomes almost unbearable. They are acutely aware that nothing in this world is permanent. Everything is merely a ceaseless transformation, invisible endings awaiting. Each encounter with another person reveals not just ordinary faces, but also pains, struggles, and even lives forgotten amidst wrong choices. When observing the lives of those around them, the intellectual, sometimes, feels like a stranger in their own world. They feel alienated, isolated, like an outsider lost among a crowd living blindly. Everything around them seems to lack depth, devoid of the nuanced understanding they seek. Superficial conversations and shallow social relationships only amplify their sense of alienation. This is why, for the intelligent, loneliness is sometimes a choice. Loneliness is not an escape from the outside world, but a retreat into oneself to seek peace in a space untainted by the noise of life. In solitude, they find the stillness of the soul, where they can confront existential questions about themselves and the world. However, this is not a wholly pleasant state, but rather an inner battle between the desire for connection and the fear of confronting one's own vulnerabilities and powerlessness. Existential crisis, the price of awakening, and then, awakening also brings a burden that not everyone can bear. Awakening is not liberation or joy, as many people mistakenly believe. It is a constant struggle between clearly seeing the truth and enduring the pain it brings. When a person understands that everything is transient, that all human efforts, no matter how grand, will ultimately end in death, they cannot help but feel despair, a sudden emptiness seizing their heart. Death, which the wise perceive more clearly than ever, is not something distant or simple. It is an inevitable outcome that every living being must face. But it is precisely because they are aware of death that the wise feel even more alienated from life and from the fleeting pleasures of the world. That feeling is like a time bomb hanging over their heads, never letting go. Each passing day brings forth a question that has no answer. What am I living for? The existential crisis is an invisible but brutal war. It does not occur in every day life, but is rather a psychological battle deep within the inner self. The wise do not just fight against death, they also struggle with their very existence, with the sense of meaninglessness that they cannot deny. Intellect and emotion. An indescribable torment. There is a paradox that the wise always face. The sharper the intellect, the broader the awareness, the more susceptible they are to being swept up in intense emotional waves. It seems that simply understanding the nature of things could free us from the influence of emotions. But reality is not so. Feelings such as anxiety, depression, and loneliness always persist, no matter how hard one tries. And the more they comprehend the harshness of life, the easier it is for them to be drawn into long, anxious nights. Intelligence is not a remedy that heals all wounds. It cannot soothe loneliness, dull the fear of death, or alleviate the sense of alienation. It only makes everything clearer, so clear that one cannot escape it anymore. In such moments, the intelligent person sometimes feels like a bird trapped in a golden cage, unable to fly, unable to break free, yet also unable to pretend they do not see the walls of that cage. And from this, the feeling of suffering arises not from a lack of intelligence, but because greater depth of intelligence forces them to confront questions that have no answers. Exploring the nature of existence, seeking meaning in a meaningless world. When intellectuals confront the world, they do not merely perceive things through the lens of pure intellect. They must also grapple with profound questions about the nature of existence. Humans do not live to accumulate material wealth or to satisfy societal standards, but rather to seek a deeper purpose in life, a reason to continue existing, even knowing that ultimately everything will come to an end. This awareness leaves intellectuals feeling caught in a haze between accepting the meaninglessness of life and striving to create meaning within it. It is a ceaseless struggle, a battle, where victory consists of fleeting moments of understanding, while defeat manifests as feelings of disappointment and emptiness. And so they wonder whether the purpose of life is merely to exist, or whether we can create value from this existence itself. In observing those around them, they perceive the blindness of the majority in society. They see individuals who live merely to satisfy material needs, pursue superficial relationships, and indulge in fleeting pleasures. Meanwhile, they find themselves trapped in an endless search, in a world where answers are exceedingly rare. This is the conflict that the intelligent must endure. Is it possible to live in such a world without being swept away by its meaninglessness? Can one find significance in life without relying on illusions or existing theories? Searching for liberation, a fragile hope. Amid all this pain and existential crisis, some intellectuals are in search of liberation. However, this does not mean seeking a life free from suffering or difficulties. The liberation they yearn for is not an escape from reality, but rather an ability to accept all its complexities, a profound understanding of the nature of existence, and an inner peace no matter how chaotic the world around them may be. This liberation is not a release from pain, but an understanding of pain, an acceptance of it as an inseparable part of life. While the majority of people continue to find ways to evade the truth, intellectuals choose to confront it openly, without concealment or avoidance. They understand that only by seeing everything clearly in its bare state can they find true peace. But is complete liberation achievable? Or are we simply accepting that all things must come to an end? That is the question they face every day, caught in the whirlpool of self-reflection, a mirror that eternally reflects. An important aspect of loneliness for intellectuals is the relentless self-reflection. Every moment of life, every step taken, every decision made is analyzed, perceived, and contemplated by them. They do not merely view the world through the lens of events, but also through the prism of values, theories, and questions that they constantly carry in their minds. This feeling is akin to standing before an eternally reflective mirror, where every step they take is incessantly reflected back at them. Each moment becomes a challenge, a dialogue with oneself. They not only question what they do, but also why they do those things. And within each question lie countless answers, countless pathways, each leading to unpredictable crossroads. The conflict never ends. Unanswered questions. This conflict never ends. Intellectuals always seek clarity in a world that they know cannot offer absolute clarity. Every time they think they have found an answer, a new question arises. A piece yet to be filled in the complex picture of life becomes apparent. This reality creates a sense of tension and suffering that only intellectuals can fully perceive. It is the anguish of having to analyze everything too much, too rationally. And while they seek to liberate themselves from these questions, they feel more bound than ever. Ultimately, intelligence and wisdom are not always a gift. They can be a curse, a burden that one cannot easily set down. Wisdom brings a high level of awareness, but also offers a sharp view of the difficult and harsh realities of life. It helps people understand everything, while simultaneously forcing them to confront loneliness, crisis, and the meaninglessness of existence. Intellectuals may feel freedom in their insights, but they must also pay the price for that freedom, with the loneliness and pain that only they can comprehend. Thus, it can be said that wisdom is a double-edged sword. On one side, it brings clarity, while on the other, it opens the doors to unavoidable suffering. Searching for meaning in loneliness, the path to becoming oneself. When confronted with loneliness, intellectuals often find an opportunity to discover their true essence. For them, loneliness is not just a temporary condition, but a necessary space to reflect on themselves. Profound thoughts about life, the world, and the relationship between humanity and the universe can only arise in stillness and solitude. This is the moment they can genuinely examine the nature of existence and pose larger questions about their role in this world. When not influenced by social relationships or external pressures, intellectuals can focus on themselves and their inner development. It is an opportunity for them to explore different aspects of their intellect without being constrained by social factors or expectations. Loneliness becomes a space for them to find meaning in life in their own unique way. For intellectuals, solitude is not a punishment or a suffering. On the contrary, it is an opportunity to discover the truth about oneself, to explore profound thoughts and emotions that they may not have realized before. In solitude, they do not endure a lack of social or emotional connection. Rather, they exist in a quiet space where they can confront the significant questions that life presents. Thus, for intellectuals, one of the most important lessons they can learn is to accept the limits of intellect. Intelligence can help them gain a clearer understanding of the world and the laws of nature, but it cannot provide all the answers. Intellect cannot fully explain the meaning of life, cannot answer all the big questions, and cannot bring eternal happiness. Recognizing the limits of intellect is not a failure, but rather a sign of maturity. It is the understanding that there are things in life that are inexplicable, uncontrollable, and do not require searching for answers to everything. By accepting this, intellectuals can find freedom and peace in life. They can live in ambiguity, in uncertainty, and still find meaning in the present moments. Thank you for staying with us until the end of this video. If something here resonates with you, feel free to share, comment, or follow our channel. It means the world to us.